Hello again, everybody, and welcome into Gamecock Central Radio. Baseball report today with staff writer Collyn Taylor. I'm Emerson Phillips. Collyn, the 2018 Gamecock baseball schedule released earlier this week by the University of South Carolina Athletics Department.
Yeah, and it's about that time. Things are starting to cool off, only to warm up again here in about February. So we're really only about 6 weeks away from the start of preseason scrimmages, and then we get into baseball season, best time of the year. So it's right around the corner, and this is the first step into making sure that the season gets kicked off the right way.
New head coach Mark Kingston makes his Gamecock head coaching debut on Friday, February the 16th. That'll be the season opener for the Gamecocks in 2018. 4 o'clock first pitch against VMI, and that will open a 10-game homestand for Gamecock baseball to open the new season. Midweek clashes against Charlotte on February the 20th, Winthrop on the 21st, and Furman on February 27th. Surround a 3-game series against Charleston Southern. That'll be February 23rd through the 25th. And the Gamecocks will face rival Clemson starting Friday, March the 2nd. Carolina gets the home game on Friday. The two teams will play at Fluor Field in Greenville on Saturday. And Sunday's Game 3 will be at Clemson, Doug Kingsmore, on March the 4th. So, Collyn, a very tough SEC slate, as always, here, and some interesting non-conference opponents, a couple of Ivy League schools, midweek game with Harvard, and the Gamecocks will open SEC play against the defending national champions.
Yeah, and, just looking at it, I think it's a series against Princeton, too. They got, in that SEC schedule, it's never easy, but just looking at it this year, I mean, you're going to open with the defending national champion, and then, 3 weekends later, you're at a team that, went to a super regional in Kentucky last year. Then you travel to Arkansas the week after that, and then you have LSU, Vandy, Ole Miss, and A&M to close out the year. I mean, you're going to need to stockpile wins in the SEC when you can find them. And that's with every team. I mean, just looking at this SEC slate, it's a pretty tough one. And talking with, Mark Kingston a little bit over the summer, he mentioned the fact that, when scheduling these non-conference opponents, he's not really worried too much about the RPI, because he knows how much of a boost playing in the SEC gives you. Playing, great teams, week in and week out. There are 3 teams just in SEC play that went to the College World Series last year, in Florida, LSU, and A&M. 2 that played in the, title series.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a really, really good SEC slate, and it's going to test a pretty young team, especially right out of the bat. I mean, you have, 2 of your first 4 weekends are away. You play two teams that went to a super regional the year before your first 4 weekends. You have Arkansas, who made the tournament. These are some tough opponents. So I think, there are some chances to kind of gel early, but they need to gel and kind of figure out their identity week 1, because, Florida's not a slouch. I mean, they reload every year, and they got some really good pitching, obviously, coming back. So it's going to be a big test, obviously. But, you never know with this team. They could surprise people, especially being this young. But it's going to be it's going to be tough sledding. It'd be tough sledding for any team that had to go through that kind of SEC schedule.
Yeah, Collyn, it's interesting that the Gamecocks will open SEC play at home against Florida March the 16th, 3-game series there. And later in the year, the Gamecocks will also host national runner-up LSU. So we had an all-SEC final in the College World Series last year, and the Gamecocks get both those teams at home this year. Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Missouri also come to Founders Park in 2018, and the Gamecocks road series will be against Georgia, Kentucky, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, and Texas A&M. But, Collyn, going back to the Florida series, to open conference play, defending national champs coming to Founders Park. And I think, an interesting sidebar to this matchup will be the fact that the Gamecocks were obviously interested in the coach at Florida when Chad Holbrook resigned last year, and the Gamecocks ultimately went with Mark Kingston.
Yeah, I mean, they played, Kevin O'Sullivan was the head coach of Florida during those College World Series years where they matched up in different, the championship series and different quarterfinals and things like that. But he's a guy that the fans are obviously had high hopes about pulling in last year before Kingston was hired. And even Mark Kingston and Kevin O'Sullivan kind of go back. I mean, they both kind of rose through the coaching ranks at the same time. Kevin O'Sullivan was a little bit more accelerated. Mark Kingston took a little bit, I wouldn't say longer, but a different winding path to get to a head coaching job in the SEC. But they were both really highly regarded assistants for long times at big name schools. And these two coaches are pretty similar in their approaches. They rely heavily on pitching, and they rely heavily on power offensively. And this is a great series. I think it'll be a measuring stick for what this team could be going forward, especially even just looking at it months from now. I think ideally South Carolina would want to have their rotation set Friday, Saturday, Sunday guys, and have a pretty consistent lineup by what will be probably the fifth weekend of the year. So it'll be an interesting one because fans are obviously, Kevin O'Sullivan will be coaching in Columbia this year regardless. So it'll be interesting to see how he's received by the fans. And I think it'll be a really good series because South Carolina does have some pop in their bats that could probably get to that Florida pitching if they're on.
Talking Gamecock baseball here with staff writer Collyn Taylor. I'm Emerson Phillips. This is Gamecock Central Radio. We hope you'll download the Gamecock Central Radio app. We've got this phone app that allows you to listen to our podcast on your cell phone or mobile device. It's a free app. It's available on the App Store and on Google Play. Subscribe to our podcast. Search for Gamecock Central Radio on iTunes, SoundCloud, and other popular services, or just visit radio.GamecockCentral.com. Collyn, the Gamecocks will play a couple of neutral site games during the second half of the non-conference schedule. Gamecocks against the Tar Heels in Charlotte at BB&T Field on Tuesday, April the 3rd. And the College of Charleston game on May the 9th will be played at Spirit Communications Park in Columbia. That's the home of the Columbia Fireflies.
Yeah, and I think, the more neutral site games, especially in areas that Carolina really recruits in Charlotte, and they're playing in Greenville, obviously, and they're playing an away game at the Citadel in Charleston as well, and then playing in Columbia. I think anywhere you can go where you recruit heavily, like they do in Charlotte and Charleston and Greenville and those areas, it's a big deal, and they're playing some pretty good opponents. Clemson's obviously in Greenville. They're playing Furman in Greenville. Then they have App State in Charlotte, which is a new game this year. Usually they play App State at home, but they're playing them up there this year. And then they're playing, of course, that North Carolina game, which South Carolina fans don't have great memories of over the past 2 years after being blown out twice by North Carolina. But they're playing North Carolina again. And from what Kingston's told me, he really loves that game. It's a good RPI booster. It's great for the fans. It's great for the players to go play in a pretty great minor league park. And it's a good event. I bet fans wish South Carolina would be a little bit more competitive in it. But those are really good neutral teams, and obviously Chad Holbrook bringing that College of Charleston team up here in May to Columbia in his return to the capital city. Obviously, a lot of storylines for that one. It'll be interesting to see how he's received, whether it's cheers or boos or whatever it's going to be from the fans. It's a pretty good non-conference midweek schedule as well. A lot of what fans have come to expect, a lot of regional schools around South Carolina, and a lot of Northeastern teams at the beginning of the year in terms of just wanting to get somewhere warm and not play in the snow for 3 or 4 weeks to begin the season.
Collyn, when Chad Holbrook resigned last year, he talked about the fact that he had been a coach at every game that Carolina had played at Founders Park since the building opened. And I think it's worth noting that the College of Charleston game on May the 9th is a neutral field game, so Coach Holbrook will not be in the visiting dugout at Founders Park.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be I know that it's something that they wanted to get done. I'm not sure if he was really ready to return. I don't know the whole situation there, but he gets to come back to Columbia, see a lot of the players that are on this team that he's recruited or he helped recruit. So it should be a good homecoming and a pretty good game in terms of the midweek and things like that late in the season.
Yeah, I fully expect Coach Holbrook to be warmly received at Spirit Communications Park on May the 9th. So, Collyn, we got the SEC tournament beginning on May the 21st, the SEC Tournament Championship game Sunday, May 26th. Regionals for the NCAA tournament begin Friday, June 1st. Super Regionals start Friday, June 8th. And then the College World Series will start on Saturday, June 16th. It's been a while since the Gamecocks have been to Omaha. Tyler, Collyn, I'm not sure what expectations will be for Mark Kingston in his first season with the Gamecocks, but give us a general feel for what this team may look like. Starting pitching obviously has suffered some losses, but a solid nucleus of returning players on defense and in the batting order. So give us a feel for what Gamecock baseball may look like in 2018.
I mean, if fans like the long ball, then they're going to be pleasantly surprised this year. Mark Kingston's really, really big on making sure players do damage in the box with extra base hits, and home runs. He loves hitting for power, and I think he has guys that can do that in Carlos Cortez. Obviously, we had a monster back half of the season. Jacob Olson, who showed flashes of being just really, really powerful, and newcomer Kyle Jacobson has kind of shown signs of that as well. And then you have guys like Jonah Bride who've shown flashes of doing that. You have different guys that can hit and do things differently in the box. And I think that South Carolina's going to hit a lot of home runs. I think they're going to score some runs, and if the pitching can kind of come along, I know Adam Hill's probably your Friday night guy, stays healthy, and then you're looking at maybe 3 or 4 guys competing for those final 2 spots. And Cody Morris, Colby Lee, who pitched last year, and then Carmen Majinski and Logan Chapman, who are both true freshmen that have impressed early on in fall scrimmages and winter workouts. So a lot unknown right now in terms of obviously the pitching and different roles like that, but they're working toward being fully healthy, and once that happens, I think you're going to get a clear picture of what South Carolina's pitching core can be this season.
Skylar Meade added to the coaching staff last week. Collyn, a young coach, played at Louisville, played in the College World Series. Tell us about him.
From what we've gathered, he's a pretty, he's obviously young. I think he's only about 10 years older than I am, and I graduated in May. So he's young. He's kind of innovative in his way of thinking. He's pretty hands-on with his players. He said that it's going to be over-the-top communication over the winter, trying to get things together on his availability when he met with the media. And he said that he's big on letting pitchers kind of do what they want to do and embrace their game rather than trying to force them to play the kind of game he wants them to play. And he said pitchers and catchers have full ability to shake off different pitches and throw what they want to throw if it's the right thing to throw. So I think he's going to be innovative. I think it'll be a breath of fresh air for South Carolina and a way to kind of get things, I don't want to say on the right track, but get things a different, fresh perspective, different point of view, which is usually a good thing. So I think he's going to be a good addition, but wish Jerry Myers, who had to take a leave of absence, the best in his recovery and getting back to full health as soon as possible.
Yeah, leave of absence for Jerry Myers. So Skylar Meade brought in a nice addition to the Gamecock staff. Meade brings in a very impressive resume, even considering the fact that he is young, like Collyn said. So it'll be interesting to see how his philosophy factors into the 2018 Gamecock baseball approach. Season starts on Friday, February the 16th, 4 o'clock first pitch against VMI, and it'll be the start of the Mark Kingston era at South Carolina. Collyn Taylor, thanks very much for the baseball report.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Collyn Taylor, our staff writer with Gamecock Central, and I'm Emerson Phillips, and this is Gamecock Central Radio. We'll have a full season preview for Gamecock baseball coming up in February. Thanks for being with us.